Hello everyone, I hope y'all are doing well and having a great Tuesday so far. In today's forecast update, we're going to be talking about our severe weather threat over the next several days, and we'll be talking about tomorrow's severe weather threat to begin with on Wednesday, and then we'll be also talking about Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays severe weather threat. But we'll kind of take really Friday through Sunday severe weather threat for the kind of second half of the video, because we're going to focus a little bit more on our severe weather threat that's closer to us now in range a little more, especially with tomorrow's severe weather threat. So that'll be the main topic for tonight's video. And so I will have timestamps up in the video so y'all can go to any severe weather day y'all want to see, whether that be tomorrow's, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays. So feel free to click on any timestamp y'all want to. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the update. So first here, looking at tomorrow's severe weather threat for Wednesday, March 11th. And so we already do have a slight risk into southeastern Oklahoma, northeastern Texas, into southwestern and kind of western Arkansas, and then into extreme northwestern Louisiana for again tomorrow on Wednesday. And around that is a marginal risk all the way from Oklahoma into Arkansas, into Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas as well. Then if we look at our risk for tomorrow, we have a 2% tornado risk into this area here, into Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, and again, Louisiana. And then looking at our wind risk for tomorrow, we do have a 15% wind risk into these areas here in that yellow color. And surrounding that 15% wind risk is a 5% wind risk in the brown color. And then looking at our hail risk, we do have a 15% hail risk in the yellow color. And then in the dashed black lines here, kind of slanted dashed black lines, that is, we have a 10% significant hail risk for tomorrow. And we also have a 5% hail risk surrounding that in the kind of brownish color right there. So now looking at the HRRR weather model here for tomorrow, and we'll go back just a little bit. So we go to about midday tomorrow on Wednesday, and keep your eye out, or keep your eye on this area kind of right into here for tomorrow's threat. And so continuing that on, you can see our low pressure here. We have a 999 millibar low pressure showing up on the HRRR weather model for tomorrow. And then as we go further into the afternoon, we finally get some development of storms into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so continuing that on still, those storms start to head east just a little bit, and they'll finally kind of get their act together by late tomorrow afternoon into the evening hours. And really by the late evening hours, most of these storms should start to increase in severity, whether that be a strong storm or even severe storms, which is more likely. But continuing that on, those storms head on out to the east and move into Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana as well by late tomorrow evening. Then as you get into the overnight hours, you have this pretty large cluster of honestly disorganized storms there into Arkansas, even into southeastern Oklahoma and northern Louisiana. And that would continue on throughout the night, and most of those storms will start to diminish a little bit with their severity, but some of these storms maybe farther to the south, kind of that low pressure into Arkansas, could still be somewhat potent by very early on Thursday. And really by Thursday morning, most of those storms should have kind of calmed. The severity should have went down just a little bit, and the conditions should have calmed down a little bit. But then we'll have our Thursday severe weather threat, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But if we go back here just a little bit, and we will look at our dew points. And so again, looking at the HRRR, and so if we go to about right when storms really start to get going, you have dew points into the kind of lower 60s here. Some areas may be seeing mid 60s dew points, but a decent supply of moisture there for tomorrow, and into tomorrow night throughout tomorrow night into Thursday, you will have a decent supply of moisture, and that moisture will once again rise up here into our secondary area for Thursday's severe weather threat, which we will talk about in just one moment. So now looking at Thursday's severe weather threat on the 13th, of March, and we do have a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk here in the green color into Mississippi, Alabama, into as well as Georgia, and then this almost kind of gets into the Panhandle of Florida there. And the Storm Prediction Center does not issue tornado wind or hail risk for the day 3 or beyond outlooks. So we cannot look at any of those risks, but we do have a automatic marginal risk for the day 3 time frame on Thursday with this severe weather threat. Just quickly discussing Thursday's severe weather threat, and we're not really in range too much for these short range models. And I mean, we are for some, but I just don't really want to show them because they're probably going to change just a little bit from now until really tomorrow or tomorrow night. So just looking at the GFS here for our dew points. And so as you can see here, by about midday on Thursday, you do have some areas into the low 60s for the dew points there, and that'll help with those storms. And so you'll have that little bit of leftover energy with your system that'll move through, and you'll just have a little bit of instability there for those storms, but nothing too crazy. And again, you only have dew points into some areas just into the 50s, but some areas again could see dew points into the low 60s, especially into at least Mississippi and Alabama for Thursday. And then if we look at our precipitation here, I'm gonna look at this real quick. And so this will just kind of be scattered thunderstorms here, nothing too severe from what I can see. And most of those storms will start to form about midday, but a little after midday, you have those moving a little bit farther east into Georgia, but mainly staying into Alabama on Thursday, but again, moving east into Georgia later in the afternoon into the evening hours. And that should finally move on out, at least by late Thursday night, and out of these areas. Most of the areas there should be clear by then. Now switching to Friday's severe weather threat on March the 14th. And so we already do have a enhanced risk, which is the orange color here, from Illinois into Missouri, Kentucky, Arkansas, Western Tennessee, Northwestern Mississippi as well for again on Friday. And so looking around that, in the yellow color, we have an automatic slight risk, a level 2 out of 5, and the enhanced risk is a level 3 out of 5. But the level 2 out of 5 and slight risk starts all the way into southern Minnesota, into Wisconsin, and extends all the way down into eastern Texas, into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and also into those states in between. So that is again the Friday severe weather threats for portions of the Midwest and South. Then looking at Saturday's severe weather threats, and so again, we already have a automatic enhanced risk, a level 3 out of 5, into Tennessee, into extreme southwestern North Carolina, into Georgia, almost the entire state of Alabama, into the western panhandle of Florida here, and also into portions of eastern Mississippi, and all the way into a small area into Louisiana as well. And so zooming out here, we already have again another level 2 out of 5 slight risk, extending all the way from western Pennsylvania into Ohio, all the way down southwest of there into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Florida as well for again our Saturday severe weather threats on the 15th. And then finally looking at our day 6 severe weather risk on Sunday, March the 16th. And we already have a level 2 out of 5, once again, slight risk, extending or starting from Pennsylvania and New Jersey all the way through the portions of the mid-Atlantic and into the panhandle of Florida, southeastern Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas as well. Into those areas. Again, that is for our Sunday severe weather threat on the 16th of March. So now moving on to our severe weather threat for really the rest of the week Friday, Saturday, and Sunday severe weather threat. And so we'll just be discussing all these days kind of as a whole because they're still far out and we can't really break down each day. But I'll still give a decent breakdown of each day. I just won't get as in depth as I would if it were to be, let's say, 24 to 48 hours out. So first here, looking at the EPS ensembles, and so we continue this on. As you can see, right here into the south central U.S., that is our low pressure for our system and our low pressure for the severe weather threats for tomorrow on Wednesday and on Thursday. That'll move east across those areas, and then as you can see it there into the southeastern U.S. on Thursday. That kind of shortwave trough there will move out, and then if we look out to our west, we can see our main trough associated with our severe weather threat for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that will finally start to move in by Friday morning, and you can see that pretty strong system there with a negative tilt into really New Mexico right there, and it's just a pretty potent trough for this time of year especially. And as you can see, by midday Friday it starts to amplify even further, and it just has a full-blown negative tilt and is still strengthening pretty much by this point as it heads up into the central U.S. and Midwestern United States. That will continue on up by Friday night into Saturday morning, all the way up into the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes region. And then if we look to go back a little bit here, you can see our kind of other energy here that'll be responsible, or other kind of really a separate piece of energy responsible for our Saturday severe weather threat. And so that'll continue on out and move to the that other system will move on up to the north pretty much, and that other energy is going to come into the east, and you'll once again see your severe weather threat for Saturday and Sunday. The system will start to move out by Sunday after it delivers the severe weather in the eastern U.S., and then it should pretty much be just about gone out of the United States by Monday. And then you will have some troughing there that'll continue just for a couple of days after that system exits the U.S. But that is the 500 millibar height, looking at our vorticity, so we can see that system a little bit better. But now we'll go ahead and look more at the precipitation on some of the long-range models. Now looking at the European weather model for our severe weather threat for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And first starting out again with Friday. And as you can see by 18Z Friday, which is about midday, you already have your low pressure right there in the southwestern Kansas region into almost the panhandle of Oklahoma. And so you have all your storms, and you can already see your moisture here kind of within these areas, and those storms will just really explode with the instability in place with some of these areas, and just forcing overall. They won't literally explode, but they'll just have so much going for them, all the ingredients in place, that they'll be able to form quite quickly, especially with this strong storm system. But as we go into Friday afternoon, you already have, again, these storms beginning to form here, and you have a pretty long, not really line, but a long segment of precipitation, and you'll have sort of two different storm modes with this, kind of a cooler setup up into these areas, and a little bit more moist setup down further to the south. But continuing that on into Friday evening into Friday night, you have a pretty strong band here showing up with those storms again Friday evening into Friday night, and you still have storms further to the south. And so these will be quite strong, and I think this will eventually get going into a line of storms that'll be quite strong as you get into late Friday night across portions of the Ohio Valley, all the way up into the Great Lakes region, and even further into the south. You continue that on and you go into Saturday on the 15th, and you have your low pressure finally starting to exit and go up into Canada, and you'll have your other systems start to get going by really by Saturday morning, and so you'll once again have your storms beginning to form in these areas, and I think we could have a little bit more maybe discrete storms for Saturday. I think just because you'll have more of a wider area compared to, let's say, the day before, where you'll have a smaller area where these storms will be kind of forced into a line, you could say. So you'll have a little bit of a wider moist sector with your Saturday severe weather threat, but that will continue on Saturday into much of these areas right here, and then all the way into Saturday night as well. The storms will continue on and move east, and then by Sunday, I don't think you'll have as much forcing, but it'll still be there with your threats. But you could once again see your second, really third severe weather threat for the weekend almost again on Sunday across some of these areas here in that area. None up here, but there could still be some areas up there with severe weather, but mainly confined to the eastern U.S. and Atlantic seaboard there. But then you go into kind of Sunday night into Monday, and the European wants to show just this kind of another piece of energy getting going, and you'll have rain once again across these areas for maybe Monday, but we'll have to watch that a little bit more as we get closer to it and see how that might play out. But that is again the European weather model, and then real quick we'll look at the GFS as well, and it's still loading. The 18Z run is, so we'll let that load a little bit, and we'll look at the European AI model, and we'll look and see what it has to show. So you'll have we'll go to Friday first, and so it has that around the same millibar low pressure, but it does have sort of a wider area of precipitation. But I do think this is just because it's a little bit different compared to the European, where it goes into 6-hour increments instead of the Europeans 3-hour increments. So that'll be a little bit different there. So that should be a little bit spread out more, even though it is the same system. But still, you have the same sort of idea with that lead system. And then on Saturday, you have your moisture here moving on up, as you can see there, into the upper south, and that will continue on even into Sunday as well. And the European AI model wants to show the same thing with another system kind of getting going off, not really into the Atlantic, but the Atlantic seaboard there, and it would get that out by Tuesday. So some of these areas you may have to definitely watch for the flooding threat, because you will see in some areas at least a couple of inches of rain, and especially with, I think, the southeast U.S. could see a little bit of a flooding threat as well, especially if we get another system going like is showing on the European AI model, European and GFS weather model. So we can't really see too much farther on the GFS that as far as it goes, but we'll go back here and just compare a little bit on the European. And so if we go to Friday, once again, we'll go to our dew points, because that'll be the really main thing we'll have to watch here. And so we go to Friday, and you do have some moisture up here into the Midwestern U.S., but still mid to low 50s dew points all the way up into even Iowa. And then looking farther to the south on Friday midday, you have a rich moisture down here into the south central U.S. and really deep south. And so the reason we're not seeing as rich moisture further to the north is because our system that'll move through really tomorrow on Wednesday will actually suppress this a little bit more, so you will not have as much of a moisture return as you would if there was not a system before this upcoming one. So in a way, this system tomorrow is actually helping us a little bit suppress that moisture, so the storms aren't able to be as strong, but still not taken away from the severe weather threat on these days here. There's still going to be a severe weather threat for sure still, no matter really how much moisture we get in these areas. There's still going to be a severe weather threats, and it would definitely, it's not going to be as strong as it would again if there was a kind of stronger push of moisture up into these areas, but still will have a severe weather threat for sure with these conditions in place. And then, so going back here, I got a little bit off track there, but still by Friday evening into Friday night, you still have deep moisture deep here into the south, and some of that moisture is clinched off a little bit, but your moist sector is going to kind of expand a little bit again on Saturday, and so I think we could see a kind of mixed bag here of storms. You could have some maybe semi-discrete storms compared to the day before, and so even as we get further into Saturday, even into Sunday, you still have a decent moist sector here into the eastern U.S. Dew points in the mid and upper 60s, into the deep south, into those areas. And one thing for sure that we're going to have to watch is if we go back here, let me go to we'll go to 18Z Saturday, and so there has been an interesting trend here. There is a trend of moisture getting pushed up a little bit farther to the north here. So if we continue this and look at these trends here, the latest runs have definitely pushed that moisture a little bit further to the north and kind of widened that moist sector a little bit. And as you can see, much richer moisture into Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and even the panhandle of Florida for Saturday. So moisture is not going to be a question at all in these areas for Saturday. And even on Sunday, you'll have a decent supply of moisture, and still even on Friday, you will still have plenty of moisture, especially in the deep south as well. And then lastly, we'll look at our low-level jet here, and this will be one of the main stories for our upcoming severe weather days. And so if you look here, 18Z Friday, you have a upper 50 to, upper 60 to almost 70 knots low-level jet into these areas, even into Missouri as well by 18Z Friday. You go into Friday night, that the level jet amplifies even further. You get a 70 plus knot low level jet into Illinois, Missouri, northeastern Arkansas, and this will really help with those storms, and they'll be able to they'll just really be able to have that kind of low level spin with these storms, along with some instability. And even as you get into Friday, further into Friday night, you just have a very strong low level jet across portions of the Ohio Valley into the upper south. It is just very strong by that point, 70 to almost 80 knot low level jet in some areas, and that is plenty strong enough for tornadoes. And if we look at our upper level winds here, you still have a good supply of upper level winds, especially with that system moving on up to the north. But again, that'll be the main story here. And I mean, if you look at dew points in these areas, again, you don't have dew points into the mid 60s, but you still have low 60s dew points even into the mid 50s there up into Kentucky for Friday night. And again, that'll just be nothing but trouble in those areas. Same thing with Saturday night. That low level jet is going to amplify, and I really think we could have a another decent severe weather threat on Sunday across portions of the south, with that strong low level jet returning, but not as strong, but still you'll have a little bit more moisture in place. So I think that could once again spell trouble for these areas. And then finally, just real quick, looking at Sunday's dew points here, not dew points, low level jet. You're not going to have a low level jet really much in the afternoon and evening hours, but you'll have one as you go into early Sunday morning. And if there's still a level jet in place to do this, some of these areas with moisture in place as well, we could still have a severe weather threat for sure, especially on Sunday. And so I honestly think we could see a decent severe weather threat into the southeast. But I think honestly, with that low level jet returning a little bit, not returning, lifting to the north a little bit, I think we could potentially see maybe a greater tornado threat further to the north on Sunday, because you'll have daytime heating in some of those areas. So that overlapped with your maybe upper 50s to low 60s dew points with a strong or at least moderate low level jet. That could again spell trouble for some of those areas. But that is really about it for the discussion for tonight. I know that was a lot to cover, and I tried to cover it as quickly as I could, but that'll be it for our discussion of this upcoming severe weather threat. That'll be it for today's update. I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I know that was a pretty long video. I didn't want it to be 30 minutes long, but it's hard to kind of put all that together and keep it under really 20 minutes. But I try to go as quick as I can so it doesn't get too boring. But I really do appreciate all of y'all watching, and I'm gonna try to have another video out later this week, and it'll probably be at least maybe a couple more days before I get another update out. But I will try my best to have one out before our kind of major severe weather threat Friday, Saturday. Really Friday and Saturday, but also Sunday. But our main 2 days will be Friday and Saturday. But I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's Tuesday and a great rest of y'all's week.